All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today we're going to dig into the incredible story of how a young, kind of coastal United States just exploded across an entire continent. We're talking about a single massive land deal, a war that totally changed its place in the world. This is the story of America's first big growth spurt.
I mean, it sounds kind of impossible, right? How does a nation just double its size overnight? But believe it or not, it actually happened. So let's jump right in and start with what has to be the single biggest and maybe the most surprising real estate deal in all of history.
But, before the U.S. could even think about buying up huge new chunks of land, it really needed a plan, a blueprint, right, for how to grow in an organized way, instead of just letting it become total chaos out there.
And this was it. This was the blueprint, the Northwest Ordinance. Seriously, this was a huge piece of legislation. It was basically the government making a promise to its people, saying, hey, go west, we want you to. And don't worry, we've got a fair, organized system for turning all that new land into actual states.
Okay, so what's so fascinating here is how these rules really set the stage for America's future, both the good and the bad. The promise that new states would be equal, that was a massive incentive for settlers. But that ban on slavery? Whoa, that drew a literal line in the sand, or, in a river in this case, that would become a huge point of conflict, one that led straight to the Civil War.
So, with that blueprint in hand, let's see how it got put to the test, and fast, by an opportunity that honestly, nobody saw coming.
So, in 1803, President Thomas Jefferson sends a diplomat over to France, and the mission? It's really specific. Just buy one city, New Orleans. See, New Orleans was the key. It unlocked the whole Mississippi River, which was like the main highway for American farmers and merchants out west. All Jefferson wanted was to make sure they had access to that port.
But get this, when the American diplomat gets there, Napoleon Bonaparte, who's, super busy fighting wars all over Europe, he throws out this insane counteroffer. He doesn't just offer New Orleans. Oh no, he offers the entire Louisiana territory for just $15 million. That works out to something like 4 cents an acre. Just unbelievable.
And this just shows you the mind-boggling result of that deal. On the left, you've got the U.S. in 1802, and on the right, the U.S. just 1 year later. I mean, look at that. It's a total transformation on a scale that's hard to even wrap your head around.
So, yeah, the big takeaway here is that in a single move, the country was changed forever. Just like that. Now it owned this vast, mysterious, totally uncharted wilderness. It was a land of incredible promise, with untold resources and opportunities, but it was also going to be the stage for the next 100 years of American conflict and expansion.
Okay, so with all this brand new land, President Jefferson had a pretty big question on his mind. What did we actually just buy? He needed to get some eyes on the ground and fast.
And that's what kicked off one of the most famous journeys in American history. He sent out Meriwether Lewis and William Clark to lead an expedition all the way to the Pacific Ocean. But listen, their mission, it was way more than just some fun adventure trip. This was a full-on scientific and strategic mission. Their orders were pretty clear. They had to chart the trails heading west, map out all the rivers and mountains, and document all the plants and animals they'd never seen before. Plus, they were supposed to record everything they could about the Native American tribes they met. I mean, their journals gave America its first real, detailed look at the West. And that report? It would fuel the dreams of millions of pioneers for years to come.
Now, all this incredible growth, it didn't just happen in a bubble. It actually put the young United States on a direct collision course with the world's biggest superpower at the time, Great Britain.
So by 1812, things had really reached a boiling point. And it wasn't just one thing, it was a whole mess of problems. Britain was blocking U.S. trade with France. Their navy was literally capturing American ships and forcing the sailors to serve for them. There was a lot of suspicion that the British were helping Native American tribes fight back against U.S. settlement. And yeah, the Americans had their own goal of maybe conquering Canada and kicking Britain out of North America for good. Now here's the thing. The war kind of ended in a stalemate. No land really changed hands, but it was a huge psychological win for the United States. First off, it ended all the fighting with Great Britain for good. It also proved that the U.S. Army and Navy were legit forces to be reckoned with. And maybe most important of all, it created this massive surge in American nationalism and pride.
And riding that wave of newfound confidence, President James Monroe came out with this incredibly bold declaration in 1823. It would become known as the Monroe Doctrine, and wow, was it a direct message to all the old powers back in Europe.
The message, in short, was pretty simple.
and pretty defiant. Europe, stay out of the Americas. This hemisphere, it's our business, not yours. And that single idea, it would go on to define a huge part of U.S. foreign policy right up to today.
All right, so the nation is bigger. It's more secure than it's ever been. But now there's a whole new challenge. How do you actually connect this massive, sprawling country? How do you tie it all together and make it work as one big economy?
Well, the answer was infrastructure. And one of the key technologies back then was the canal. Basically, it's a man-made river, an artificial river designed to carry barges. You can just think of it like a water highway carved right through the wilderness where there wasn't a river before.
And the king of all canals was the Erie Canal. I mean, this thing was a monster of an engineering project for its time. We're talking 363 miles long, dug by thousands of workers over 8 years. When it opened in 1825, it connected the Great Lakes, right in the heart of the continent, all the way to the Atlantic Ocean.
And its impact was, well, immediate and totally revolutionary. All of a sudden, the cost of shipping stuff just plummeted. A flood of settlers now had a cheap, reliable way to move west. But the canal didn't just move people, it created an economic giant.
See, before the canal, Philadelphia was America's biggest city. But that all started to change right around 1835. Because the Erie Canal made New York City's harbor the main link between all the merchants in Europe and all the markets in the American West. It just funneled a ridiculous amount of money and business straight into one spot. And just like that, New York City became the undisputed economic and commercial capital of North America. It really highlights a key point, right? Infrastructure isn't just about moving stuff around. It's about creating centers of gravity. And the Erie Canal cemented New York's place as the top dog, a spot it's never really given up. So this incredible rapid expansion, it absolutely built a nation. But it also set the stage for some major future conflicts. So you have to ask, what's the real cost of growth? I mean, this early growth spurt was transformative, for sure. It created this continent-sized nation brimming with confidence. But the very things that made it happen, that line in the sand from the Northwest Ordinance, the displacement of Native American tribes, they also planted the seeds of deep conflicts that would, pretty soon, threaten to rip the whole country apart. And that question, well, it's one that would define the next and much bloodier chapter of American history.